you left Amazon after 2 months of working there. So I would love to know, what was your experience working at Amazon and why did you leave after just 2 months?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And I guess short story, I started at Amazon in summer 2020. It was kind of like at the beginning of the pandemic. So everything was like fully remote. And I remember I was kind of in a similar position where I stopped LeetCoding. I think I was still LeetCoding, believe it or not. I think I just enjoyed it or something, or I was already thinking about like the next job I was going to get. But I felt kind of like a sigh of relief. Like, okay, I can take my foot off the wheel now. I can just kind of chill. And I went into Amazon very green. I only had like one internship before that. And it was a difficult situation. It was a bad team. It was, no matter who you are, you would not have enjoyed that experience. You might have been able to survive that experience. And I think if I had to go through that again, with what I know now, I could very easily survive that experience and do well, get promoted, but I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it. Nobody on the team was really happy. They were waking up miserable. Like you could see in the chats, people were upset. You could see 3 a.m. commits by multiple people on the team, like regularly. And it was just an unfortunate position. And there was a lot going on personally with me at the time as well. I won't go like super in depth into it, but there were certain things that were kind of out of my control that kind of just happened at that point in time. And so I didn't really know what was going on. It was very uncharacteristic of me to quit a job or to do a risky thing like that. But in the moment, that's just what I felt was the right thing to do. I almost felt like I was possessed, like I had to do it. And I did. And I'm not recommending it to anybody, honestly, like to make the best decision for yourself. But things worked out for me. My mindset was, well, if I got this job, surely I can get another job eventually. I didn't expect it to be Google, but it was. And exactly like a year after that, I was able to get another job at Google. But the Amazon situation was just difficult. And the people there, especially, because people don't think about this a lot. It's not just about the code. It's mostly about like the people that you're working with. And that was just not, the people just weren't great on that team. And sorry if any of them are watching this video right now, but yeah.
Yeah, no, based on like, I watched one of your videos where you talked about this, right? Your manager told you should probably not ask questions, which I feel like the first thing a new grad or a new hire would want to hear is asking questions is the first thing you should do. I mean, like, we're here to help you. Everyone's coachable. The team is there to support you. And even my experience at Amazon, I wasn't a full-time there. I did an internship at Amazon. And my mentor actually criticized me for asking too many questions. He said, look, I get it, but like a lot of the, maybe 30 to 40% of these questions, you probably should just already know. And, to his point, I agree that there were a couple of questions that I could have maybe figured out myself. AI wasn't around back then in terms of LLMs, but I feel like that attitude of putting that on someone as a new hire, being like, do not ask me questions. I feel like it creates a bit of like a toxic culture there. So another part of it is, you mentioned how you sent your resignation email like 2 or 3 times and they kept convincing you to kind of get back off the ledge before you actually made it. So were there any other elements of the culture which you felt like were kind of creating that negative environment?
Yeah, it was just like long hours and like the deadlines were very, very short. And so, yeah, it was a lot of just like not allowing you to ask questions in my case. Like I remember like I had a task where I was like setting up an S3 bucket like with Athena or something like that to run like federated queries on it. And like I asked like one question, like this was the first question I asked. Like I was setting it up and I asked him like one of the configuration questions, right? I thought it was a pretty innocent one. Like I want to make sure my thing is set up the way yours is. And he basically just like brushed it off and was just like, just do all defaults and like kind of like did it in like in a rude way. And then I did that. Like I trusted him. I was like, okay, this is what I'll do. And then it didn't work. And then I was like, okay, well now it's not working and I can't ask him a question because he's just going to get mad. And then I was like, okay. And then I went, it took me like an hour to figure it out, which is like, it would have taken 1 minute if I just asked him. It took me an hour to figure it out. And it was just because like the region was wrong. Like he told me to do all defaults. That was not the case. The region was mismatched with the S3 bucket. Sure. Like that's a small thing. Maybe like you just expect juniors to figure that out. But at the same time, it's like that kind of like set the tone of everything else. And it's like, you can't ask questions. If you mess something up, it's your fault. You're stupid. There's no collaboration. It's just like, and like the deadlines are very short. You got to get things done. Everybody's already pulling all-nighters. It started to feel very like dark. And like Amazon is notorious for like tipping people, like putting them on performance improvement plans and getting fired. And so that was in the back of my mind. And I remember when I did resign, when I did quit, my manager kind of told me, they were like, yes, we fire people, but the way I think I see it is that they're just not a good fit. And I thought that was just a weird thing to say. And I was just like so taken back by it. But I was like, well, I mean, she's trying. And I don't blame any of the people. Like I'll never blame somebody else for like problems in my life. So like I don't hold anything against them. But it was just, again, just a very strange experience. Like I look back on it and I can laugh about it now, but that's the type of thing where like a moment like that can really change the trajectory of your life. If I had let that convince me that I'm just stupid, I'm dumb, I can't be an engineer, then that would have just completely changed my life. And that's what I was convinced of for a long time until I was able to get another job. And even when I did get my next job, I was really like on my toes. I was like, okay, I'm at Google. It's really, really nice here. Everybody's nice, but just don't ask questions. That's the expectations. Just don't ask questions. That's how it is in the real world. And then 6 months into Google, I realized like, okay, things are actually more chill. I actually can collaborate with people. So yeah, it's a difficult thing to navigate. It's one of those things nobody really talks about. Nobody's going to like coach you through that in your life. You go through an experience like that, you kind of have to like deal with it yourself.
Yeah, I know Amazon is notorious for hiring fast and firing fast. That's kind of like their line, is that they just seem to have just a steady, and they send out a lot of OAs, they send out a lot of interviews, they just get a lot of massive people through the system. So I always think it's interesting. And yeah, like you said, I don't really blame the people on my team or on your team as well. They're kind of just in this culture and environment, and this machine that creates that behavior. I actually think there's quotes from Jeff Bezos about like how he believes that intensity is the way to get the most out of people. It just seems the way that they run the company. But actually talking about culture, tell me what the differences between Google and Amazon were. Like culture wise, what was the vibe immediately between them and how would you compare them in your head?
Yeah, it was night and day. Like when you join Google, I don't know if it's still like this, but the first 4 weeks, you're not even with your team, which is, I don't know if that's the best way to be doing things, but you're kind of just learning the Google internal tooling for the first few weeks in like sort of like small teams and cohorts. And so that kind of sets the tone where it's like they expect you to take a long time to ramp up because a lot of the internal tooling is different at Google from anywhere else. And you're also just kind of learning, if you're a new grad, you're just learning how software development works in general. And so that was big. And in terms of like the technical side, Google, like the tooling, I will say it's generally like less fun working at Google because the tooling is so like, it's like a tech island. You're never going to use this anywhere else. And a lot of the interesting problems are already solved at Google. Like at Amazon, you might be like implementing like some AWS services. You're going to use AWS services to solve a problem, putting them together, doing a little bit of designing. At Google, there's a little bit less of that because pretty much any problem, like scale-wise problem you have is already solved by the internal tools. And what you're going to be doing, instead of solving like the interesting problems around distributed systems, you're just going to be updating config files. And it's kind of boring because sometimes you might not know what to do. And you have to, instead of learning like the fundamental CS concepts, you're learning how do these tools actually work. I have like a weird analogy, but I almost describe it as like, instead of programming, you're like moving M&Ms around where it's like, you don't really know what you're doing. You're just kind of like, it's like a very different interface for programming that you're given that you're not really used to. That's how it felt to me. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting how different companies, it's like night and day. I feel like before, when you're like outside of the industry and when as opposed to being on the inside, you don't really realize that you're still a software engineer, right? Like your title says software engineer L3, L4, like you're still an entry level developer, right? But you're doing completely different things. And I don't think people realize that picking the company you work for actually determines the quality of your life by a huge amount. It sounds like you heavily enjoyed working at Google far more than working at Amazon. So I'm actually curious, talk to me about what was the journey between the day you quit Amazon to actually making it at Google? I know based on your video that I watched, there were like some rocky ups and downs, like mental health concerning and stuff like that. So what was that journey and how did you feel like you actually, for like a phoenix from the flames, landed that amazing offer at Google that changed your life?
Yeah, so there were a lot of things that happened. So after I quit, my plan was, okay, I'm going to be super motivated. I'm going to try my best to do everything that I can. And, I can't really control the outcome, but I'm pretty sure eventually I'll be able to land a job because of that. It was kind of tough. Like during COVID, there weren't really a lot of people hiring at that point until like 6 to 12 months later. But emotionally, I just kind of hit like a bottom. Like I that's what I thought was going to happen, but I just did not. Like as soon as I quit, I just kind of lost all like energy and like the will to live, and I just kind of like then I didn't really have much going on. I was trying every day. Like I was trying to just even get out of bed, go for a walk, just do something. If I tried to sit down at my computer, I just couldn't. Like I just did not have the will to do it. I just felt like throwing up or something. Like I would just get like crazy thoughts just like flashing in my brain. And I'm not trying to describe it like it's PTSD or anything, but it kind of felt like that in the moment. And so I tried my best, and I just couldn't really get through that. I fell into a lot of like problems. I took a lot of drugs and alcohol, and those kind of messed me up. And they left definitely like made things harder for me. So I would not recommend that to anybody. But at some point, something just almost snapped. I don't know if it was the drugs or if it was the moment or some kind of spiritual thing, but I just kind of snapped and I was like, I'm just tired of this. And like, I want to do something. I'm tired of just kind of living in this limbo state. I'm going to do something, whatever happens. I can't control the outcome. I'm going to do something. I'm going to make LeetCode videos because that's something I enjoy. It's something I can help other people, and it can help me prepare for interviews at the same time. So I'm going to make a LeetCode video every single day. And surprisingly, once I kind of had that mindset and I had like something going on, something that I felt was like a productive activity, a good activity that I was doing consistently, it kind of brought me back on track and made coding easier for me. And for whatever reason, during that 12-month period, all I did was LeetCode videos. Believe it or not, I did not study any sort of computer science stuff outside of that. I did not do any personal projects. I didn't do anything. So I took like a gap year where all I did was LeetCode. I got pretty good at it. And eventually the hiring started picking back up, and I saw there was like a Google started hiring. And the day that I saw that post, I applied like immediately, because you want to apply as soon as you can to those positions to get the interview. And I was lucky enough to get the interview. And during that, there was like a lot of hurdles. Like my recruiter, he was supposed to send me the invite to schedule the meeting or the interview, but he just didn't for whatever reason. I followed up with him multiple times. He still didn't. Then I CC'd another person that was like the technical sourcer that contacted me for Google. And I CC'd him on the email, and then he responded. So I really had to like fight to even just get the interview scheduled. But eventually I got it scheduled. I got the interview. I wasn't even nervous the day of the interview for whatever reason. Usually I'm super nervous for interviews, but in that moment I had felt like I prepared so much. I was pretty calm. And I did really, really well on the interview. And then I got the offer. And then about a year after quitting Amazon, I joined Google, and the rest that's just how it went. Yeah.
I like to call these moments FTEs, or like fuck this events, where like a lot of people have that during like massive life changes. It sounded like you had one of those at Amazon. There's probably a moment where you just were like, dude, I can't do this anymore. For me, I had like a moment where I actually quit my job. It was the environment for my company wasn't bad. Like it was an okay environment, but I remember when I was working as a full-time software engineer in the past couple of years, I actually loved doing YouTube on the side. So I would wake up in the morning at maybe 6:30 or 7, spend 1 to 2 hours scripting, filming, writing. Then I would show up right at 9:05 because the daily stand-up was at 9:05. I would take like a 1 to 2 hour long lunch break, which is a crazy long lunch break, just to keep writing, keep filming more videos. And then I would leave right at like 5 p.m. so I could get back to doing YouTube. So it was almost like software engineering for me was just a fuel so I could actually work on YouTube. And at my like 10 or 11 month evaluation with my manager was the CEO of the company, by the way. This is a very small, it wasn't a startup because it was around for over 10 years, but there were just 15 engineers there. So the CEO would like sit next to me every single day. So I would interact with them on a very like daily basis. And in my review, he was like, Aman, I think you're like a really good engineer. I can definitely sense a lot of capability in you. But if you want to be promoted, which I want to promote you, but if you want to be promoted to like a mid-level or a senior, I just need 20% more. I need you like to sit there for a bit longer. I need you to like push through more code, push through more issues, just like make more impact. And, let's not leave right at 5. Let's 5:36, it would be even better. Come in a bit early. So just kind of like things like that. And after I heard that, at first I was thinking, okay, like I'm gonna have to do this because I want to get promoted. But then I actually took a step back and thought to myself, okay, why am I not already doing that? Because there were other engineers on the team who were doing that. Like I knew a guy who would come in on the weekend, he would show up at super early, he'd leave super late, and he was obviously a senior engineer because he made a lot of impact. But I realized I wasn't by default doing that because I didn't want to do that, because I wanted to focus on what I liked, which was YouTube, right? So my thought process there was the only way that I could do what he wanted would to be to cut out of YouTube time. And for what? To get like a $20,000 bonus or salary boost? Okay. Like, sure, like it's a nice like boost. It's like a nice ego status play. It's like, oh, I'm like a mid-level senior engineer now. Or I could just go all into what I actually like, which is YouTube, content creation, entrepreneurship. And if that goes well, I'll sure as hell make more than $20,000 in a year. Right. So the next day, I literally drafted my resignation letter, said, can we have a private chat? Hopped on a Google Meet and was like, yeah, I quit. And then I actually said, I'll give you like a month before I leave. And then he just said, it can be fine. Like, you can just leave after a week, which I felt like a little bit bad about. I was like, damn, am I that like replaceable? But I think it worked well for both of us. I think he could sense that my heart wasn't 100% in it. And I'd be happy for my spot to go to another engineer who was truly in it. So I guess like long story all the way coming back around. Did you have like an FTE or like a fuck this event where you were kind of on this like negative spiral and you just realized like, dude, no, like I have to do something, and that something's going to be LeetCode every single day?
Yeah, pretty much. Like I was just, because I was like going to the doctor, right? Because I was so depressed. I was like, I should go to the doctor and I should do this. And, none of that stuff was helping. I was like, I don't want to, this is like a life problem. I don't want to take an antidepressant for this, because what is that going to do? Just kind of make me feel better? Well, the problem is still there. So that's kind of what I wanted to address, like this life problem of like kind of, being like afraid to code or being afraid to like move forward in life. And yeah, I think that at that moment, you kind of just, something just snaps. Like you have to like, you can't just kind of stay like wobbling forever. You have to pick one direction or the other. And I very easily could have picked the other direction where I just say, screw life. Like I'm done. I just want to do drugs for the rest of my life and just do nothing. I very easily could have done that. But I just couldn't imagine that. Like I would have rather died than do that. So that's why I chose the other path. And yeah, I mean, this is away from like software engineering and technical advice. So I try not to give personal advice, but if somebody's going through something similar, and I've had people reach out to me, people who have gone through similar experiences, because everybody goes through tough times in their life where they don't know what to do. And eventually, you kind of figure out what's most important to you. What do you actually care about? Like, what can you just like not, like, what kind of thought could you just possibly not bear? Like maybe you get to a point and you're like, well, software engineering just isn't for me. Maybe I want to do something else with my life. Or maybe you do want to do software engineering and you're willing to like commit to that. So yeah, that's how I would think about it.
Listen up. If you're struggling to land an amazing software engineering internship or full-time job, and if you've submitted dozens of applications and you feel like nothing is working, or you just feel like you don't understand the process, I actually run a school for people who want to land great software engineering jobs called the Software Engineering Accelerator. And over the past year, we've helped dozens of students land incredible jobs and internships at companies like Capital One, Amazon, Google, LinkedIn, Adobe, MongoDB, and the list goes on. And the best part about our program is that we actually guarantee the outcome. So if you don't get the internship or full-time job you want, you don't pay. So if you're interested in working directly with me to land an incredible job in tech, absolutely guaranteed, check out the link in the description and submit an application to join us.